April 1943. The skies over France burned red that day. The Germans had laughed at the new American plane, a lumbering brute that couldn't turn, couldn't climb. Some called it the milk cow, others the flying bathtub. But laughter fades quickly when the air fills with fire. That day the Thunderbolt proved that fear can have wings, and sometimes the monster you mock becomes the nightmare you cannot escape. Dawn breaks cold over the Luftwaffe airbase at Beauvais, northern France. April 15th, 1943. The sun climbs slowly through mist that clings to the runway like a ghost refusing to let go. In the operations hut, cigarette smoke curls toward the ceiling as Oberleutnant Ralph Hermichen studies the morning briefing. He's 23 years old. He has 17 kills. His iron cross catches the lamplight as he leans forward, confident, relaxed. Around him, his squadron brothers joke and gesture with coffee cups. Someone mentions the Americans. More laughter. The new American fighter has become their favorite subject, this enormous Republic P-47 Thunderbolt that the Allies are sending up in growing numbers. Intelligence reports say it weighs 17,000 pounds fully loaded, twice the weight of a Spitfire, 8 machine guns, they say, a massive radial engine that sounds like thunder. Like a brewery truck with wings, one pilot says, grinning. Another calls it der Milchwagen, the milk wagon. Hermichen smiles but says nothing. He has learned not to underestimate any opponent. Still, the specifications seem absurd. How does something that heavy even fly? How does it turn? How does it climb? Outside, the morning sky is crystalline blue. Perfect hunting weather. Hermichen's Focke-Wulf 190 waits on the hardstand, black cross, stark against winter camouflage. He walks toward it with the easy stride of a man who owns the sky. His crew chief snaps a salute. The engine is warm, the guns are loaded, everything is ready. Across the channel at Horsham St. Faith Airfield in England, Lieutenant Frank Red Moore is trying not to vomit. It's his first combat mission. He stands beside his P-47C, running his hand along the massive cowling that houses the Pratt & Whitney R2800 double Wasp engine, 2,800 cubic inches of displacement, 18 cylinders, 2,000 horsepower screaming through a turbo supercharger. The aircraft is so big he has to crane his neck to see the top of the tail. "You'll be fine, Red," his flight leader says, clapping him on the shoulder. But Moore can see the tension in the older pilot's eyes. Everyone's nervous. The 4th Fighter Group traded their beloved Spitfires for these American giants only months ago. Some pilots still refuse to fly them. The British made jokes when the Thunderbolts first arrived, said you could defend yourself from a Messerschmitt by running around inside the fuselage and hiding. The comparison was cruel but not entirely unfair. One Thunderbolt pilot had described flying it as like wrestling a bathtub through the sky. Moore climbs into the cockpit. The seat feels like a fortress around him. So much metal, so much armor plate. The instrument panel is a maze of dials and gauges. He goes through the checklist mechanically, hands shaking slightly. Outside, ground crew pull the wheel chocks. One by one, the massive radial engines cough, sputter, then roar to life. The sound is visceral, a deep, rumbling thunder that you feel in your chest. They taxi in formation, 12 Thunderbolts, wingtips nearly touching in the morning mist. Moore tries to remember everything from training. Stay in formation, watch your altitude, don't get separated. If you get jumped, dive. The P-47 can outdive anything the Germans have, but for God's sake, don't try to turn with a 109 or a 190. You'll lose. You'll die. The runway stretches ahead. Moore advances the throttle. The acceleration is sluggish at first, all that weight fighting inertia, but then the tail comes up, the rumble smooths out, and suddenly he's airborne. The Thunderbolt climbs reluctantly like it's annoyed at having to leave the ground, but it climbs. 20,000 feet, 25,000. The oxygen mask fogs with each breath. England disappears beneath them, a patchwork of green fields giving way to grey channel water. Moore's radio crackles. They're crossing into France, enemy territory. Somewhere below, the Luftwaffe is scrambling. Somewhere below, men like Hermichen are climbing to meet them. Hermichen is already at 27,000 feet, leading his swarm of 4 Focke-Wulf 190s in a wide patrol pattern. The air is thin up here, cold even through his flying suit. He scans the horizon methodically, looking for the telltale glint of sunlight on metal. His wingman's voice breaks through on the radio. "Bogies, high and west, 10 o'clock, Americans." Hermichen turns his head. There, he sees them. A formation of heavy fighters flying in tight fingertip formation. Even at this distance, they look enormous. Thunderbolts. His pulse quickens, not from fear, but from anticipation. He has never fought one before. Time to see if the jokes are justified. "All aircraft climbing to intercept," he radios. His Focke-Wulf responds instantly, the BMW engine pulling him higher with powerful, steady thrust. The 190 is a beautiful machine, compact, deadly responsive. He has complete trust in it. Around him, his flight tightens formation. They are hunters. The Americans are prey. As they close, Hermichen studies the enemy formation. The Thunderbolts are flying straight and level, apparently oblivious to the threat approaching from their 6 o'clock. Clumsy formation, poor situational awareness. These pilots are green. This will be easy. He selects his target, a P-47 flying on the outside of the formation, slightly behind the others. A straggler, perfect. 1,000 meters, 800, 600. He can see every rivet on the American fighter now. It really is massive. The fuselage is as wide as a beer barrel, but size doesn't matter if you can't see death coming. Hermichen's thumb moves to the firing button. 400 meters. 300. The Thunderbolt begins a lazy turn. Hermichen follows, adjusting his lead. 250 meters, almost too close. He squeezes the trigger. His 4 20mm cannons and 2 machine guns erupt. Tracers arc across the sky, a stream of fire that should shred the American plane to pieces. But it doesn't. The rounds hit. He sees impact sparkling along the fuselage, the wings, but the Thunderbolt keeps flying. It doesn't even flinch. Hermichen's eyes widen. He fires again, walking his impacts across the target. More hits, more sparks. The American plane absorbs it all like a stone wall absorbing rain. Then the Thunderbolt rolls. Not gently, not slowly. It snaps inverted with shocking violence, and suddenly those 8.50 caliber machine guns are pointing directly at Hermichen. His breath catches. The American opens fire. Time becomes fragmented. Hermichen breaks hard left, his Focke-Wulf groaning under the G-forces. Tracers slash through the space where he was a heartbeat ago. The sound is like ripping canvas amplified 1,000 times. 50 caliber rounds moving at 3,000 feet per second, each one heavy enough to punch through steel. Moore's hands are locked on the control stick, knuckles white. He didn't think. He just reacted. Training took over. The enemy fighter filled his gun's sight and he pulled the trigger. Now his entire aircraft shudders with the recoil of 8 machine guns firing simultaneously, 200 rounds per second pouring out. The noise is apocalyptic even through his leather helmet. He sees the German fighter twist away, trailing a thin line of smoke. Got him. Or at least hit him. But there's no time to celebrate. His radio explodes with voices. "Break right! Break right!" "Bandits above! Christ, they're everywhere!" The sky has become chaos. Moore pulls up, looking frantically around. 319s are diving on his formation. His flight leader is already engaged, spiraling down in a violent dogfight. Another Thunderbolt streams smoke, limping toward the deck. Moore's breathing comes fast and shallow. The oxygen mask fogs completely. He can't see, can't think. Everything is noise and motion and terror. A 190 flashes past his canopy, so close he can see the pilot's face. Moore yanks the stick, trying to follow. But the Focke-Wulf is already gone, turning inside him effortlessly. The Thunderbolt wallows through the turn like a freight train trying to make a corner. Too heavy, too slow. This is exactly what they warned him about. Don't turn, fight. Don't turn, fight. But what else can he do? Another burst of tracer fire arcs past his wing. Moore shoves the stick forward, diving. Immediately, the P-47 responds. This is what it's built for. The altimeter unwinds. 26,000, 24,000. The engine howls, the airframe shudders, but the speed builds rapidly. 300 miles per hour, 350, 400. He levels out at 20,000 feet, hauling back on the stick. The G-forces slam him into his seat. Grey creeps in at the edges of his vision. But the Thunderbolt converts all that speed into altitude, climbing back up like a rocket. Moore's head clears. He looks around. The German who was chasing him is gone, unable to follow in the dive. Above him, Hermichen has regrouped with his wingman. They circle warily, watching the American formation. One of their number is missing, last seen trailing glycol coolant, gliding toward France with a dead engine. The Americans shot him. These massive, lumbering aircraft that shouldn't be able to fight have already drawn blood. Hermichen's hands are slick with sweat inside his gloves. He's fought Spitfires, Hurricanes, even the twin-engine Lightnings. But this is different. The Thunderbolt refuses to die. He put 30, maybe 40 rounds into that first one. Any other aircraft would have disintegrated, but the P-47 just kept flying, then counterattacked with such violence it shocked him. "They're armored like tanks," his wingman says over the radio, voice tight. "Did you see?" The bullets just bounce off. It's not quite true, but it feels true. The Thunderbolt's radial engine provides a wall of metal in front of the pilot. The cockpit has armor plate on all sides. The fuel tanks are self-sealing. It's built to survive, built to keep its pilot alive even when everything goes wrong. Hermichen considers breaking off. They've bloodied each other. Honor is satisfied, but his pride won't let him retreat. These are Americans, barely trained, flying borrowed aircraft in someone else's war. He's a Luftwaffe fighter ace. He doesn't run from green American boys. "Form up," he orders. "We attack again. From above. Use the sun." They climb, positioning themselves for another pass. Below, the Thunderbolts have reformed their formation, orbiting protectively around the damaged aircraft. Hermichen can see the P-47 that took his fire still flying, still fighting. Unbelievable. Moore sees them coming, two dark shapes dropping out of the sun like hawks. His radio crackles a warning, but he's already moving, breaking formation and diving. The others scatter. The careful fingertip formation explodes into individual aircraft fighting for their lives. The second engagement is brutal and fast. Hermichen lines up on another Thunderbolt, fires, watches his rounds hit. The American doesn't go down. Instead, it rolls inverted and splits S, diving away at a speed Hermichen can't match. He tries to follow, but his 190 starts to buff it, approaching its never-exceed speed. He has to pull up or risk the wings tearing off. Moore levels his P-47 at 15,000 feet, breathing hard. His aircraft has taken hits. He can feel the vibration through the control stick. Something's damaged, but all the gauges are green. Engine temperature normal, oil pressure normal. The big radial keeps running smoothly, that familiar thunder rumble that he's already starting to love. He looks up and sees a 190 diving on one of his squadron mates. No time to think. Moore hauls the stick back and climbs, every ounce of power screaming through the turbo supercharger. The P-47 accelerates vertically, defying its own weight. He gets the German in his sights and fires. Tracers converge. The 190's canopy shatters. The German fighter rolls left, trailing fire. Hermichen sees it happen. His wingman. 20 years old, 3 kills. A wife back in Hamburg. The Focke-Wulf falls away spinning, flames streaming behind it. There's no parachute. At this altitude, there won't be time. The sky is full of smoke now. Tracer fire draws glowing lines across the blue. Aircraft spiral and dive and climb in a 3-dimensional ballet of death. Hermichen's radio is chaos, voices screaming warnings, calling for help, reporting kills. He can't track it all, can't process it. He's fighting on instinct now, pure reaction. He gets a snapshot at another Thunderbolt and fires, hits, But again, the American keeps flying, they all keep flying. No matter what he does, he can't knock them down. It's like shooting at ghosts. His ammunition counter drops. 200 rounds, 150, 100. He's running dry. "All aircraft, break off and return to base," he orders. His voice is hoarse. Around him, the surviving 100s and 90s disengage, diving away toward France. The Americans don't pursue. They reform their battered formation and turn back toward England. Moore watches them go. His hands are shaking so badly he can barely hold the stick. Every muscle in his body aches. His flight suit is soaked with sweat. But he's alive. They're all alive, most of them anyway. 2 P-47s are missing from the formation, but 4 German fighters went down, maybe 5. The radio comes alive with voices, nervous laughter, relief. Someone saying, "Did you see that? Did you see them bounce?" Another voice, "I took 50 hits at least." Still flying. This thing's a tank. Moore looks down at his instrument panel. The fuel gauge is reading low. They've been fighting for 20 minutes, but it feels like hours. The French coast slides beneath them, then the Channel, then England, green and peaceful and impossibly beautiful. He's never been so grateful to see anything in his life. The Thunderbolts descend through clouds, bouncing slightly in the turbulence. Moore lines up on the runway, drops his landing gear. The hydraulics whine. The big radial engine coughs as he reduces power. The touchdown is heavy, all that weight meeting earth, but smooth. He rolls out, brakes squealing, and taxis to his hardstand. Ground crews swarm the aircraft immediately. They're already counting the bullet holes. Someone shouts, "Christ, Lieutenant, you've got 37 hits." Moore climbs out of the cockpit on legs that barely support him. He looks at his P-47. The fuselage is stitched with holes. One wing has a ragged tear 2 feet long. The tail looks like Swiss cheese, but it flew him home, through combat with some of the Luftwaffe's best pilots, through cannon fire and machine gun fire, through his own mistakes and panic. It brought him home. "Sir," his crew chief says quietly, "we'll have her patched up by morning." Good as new. Moore just nods. He's too exhausted to speak, too wrung out to process what just happened. He walks toward the debriefing hut, legs weak, hands still shaking. Behind him, the other Thunderbolts are landing one by one, each bringing its pilot home through the gathering dusk. 2 weeks later, May 4th, 1943. The war has continued its grinding advance. More missions, more encounters. The P-47s keep coming, more every day, like a rising tide that cannot be stopped. And each time, the Luftwaffe pilots learn the same lesson. The Thunderbolt cannot be killed. Hermichen has survived 6 more encounters with the Americans. Each time, it's the same. He hits them, they keep flying, they hit back. His friends die. The mathematics are brutal and simple. Germany is running out of pilots. America is just beginning to arrive. Today's mission is bomber escort interdiction. Intelligence reports a large formation of B-17s heading for the industrial targets in the Ruhr. Hermichen's squadron is ordered to break through the fighter screen and hit the bombers before they reach their target. It's suicide work, but the orders are clear. They climb to 30,000 feet, pushing their aircraft to the limits of their performance envelope. The sky up here is a deep, almost purple blue. The sun is blinding. Far below, the earth curves away toward infinity. And ahead, there they are, dozens of them, maybe 100 Thunderbolts flying in defensive formations around an even larger number of bombers. "Attack the bombers," Hermichen orders. "Ignore the fighters." We go through. They dive. All of them. 20 Focke-Wulfs and Messerschmitts dropping out of the sun at full throttle. The American fighters turn to meet them. The sky erupts. This time, there is no measured combat, no careful positioning. It's a head-on collision of metal and fire, and men screaming into their radios. Hermichen sees a Thunderbolt directly ahead, both aircraft closing at a combined speed of 800 miles per hour. He fires. The American fires. Tracers fill the space between them. At the last second, Hermichen rolls, missing the American by feet. He pulls through the formation, inverting to keep the bombers in sight. A B-17 fills his windscreen. He fires, walking his rounds up the fuselage. Engines catch fire, but before he can press the attack, something hammers into his aircraft. The stick goes mushy. His 190 shudders violently. He's been hit. Something in the tail. He kicks the rudder. It responds, but barely. Warning lights flash on his panel. Hydraulic pressure dropping. Fuel leak. He's trailing vapor, probably glycol from the cooling system. He needs to get out of here now. But the thunderbolts are everywhere. Above him, below him, turning and diving with a violence that seems impossible for such large aircraft. One drops vertically through a formation of German fighters, guns blazing, then pulls out and climbs away before anyone can react. Another absorbs a direct hit from a 20mm cannon shell. Hermichen sees the impact, sees the explosion, but the P-47 keeps flying, keeps fighting. Moore is in the thick of it, his third combat mission, and he's no longer terrified. Now he's just focused. The P-47 has become an extension of his body. He knows what it can do, knows what it can survive. A 109 flashes across his nose, and he leads it perfectly. Fires, watches pieces fly off the German fighter. It rolls away, trailing smoke. His wingman calls, "More below!" 6 o'clock low. Moore pulls hard, the G-forces crushing him into his seat. Grey tunnels his vision, but he completes the turn, and there they are. 3 German fighters diving on a damaged B-17. He dives after them, the P-47 accelerating with terrifying speed. 450 miles per hour, 470, 500. The airframe screams in protest but holds together. The German fighters are focused on the bomber, haven't seen him coming. Moore closes to 300 yards and opens fire. All 8 guns. The impacts walk across the trailing 109. The German fighter comes apart in midair, shedding pieces like a bird hit by a shotgun blast. The other Germans scatter. Moore pulls up, the G-forces threatening to black him out. His vision dims, returns, dims again. The Thunderbolt climbs back to altitude, the big radial engine pulling faithfully. Below, the bomber he saved limps toward home, 3 engines still turning. Hermichen is in a shallow dive, heading for France. His aircraft is barely controllable. Every movement of the stick sends pain shooting through his wounded fighter. The canopy is cracked. He doesn't remember when that happened. Blood runs down his face from a cut above his eyebrow. Shrapnel, probably, or broken plexiglass. It doesn't matter. He risks a look back. The sky behind him is burning, not just with fire, but with tracer rounds, thousands of them crisscrossing the air in glowing nets. The Thunderbolts have created a wall of .50 caliber fire that nothing can penetrate. His squadron is scattered, broken. At least 4 aircraft are down, maybe more. He can't tell. The radio is full of panicked voices, death screams, static. The sky is red, someone says. The voice is calm, almost dreamy. The whole sky is red. It's true. The sun is setting behind them, and the western horizon burns crimson. But it's not just the sunset. It's the tracers, the fires, the smoke, the blood. Everything has merged into one vast conflagration that stretches from horizon to horizon. It looks like the end of the world. Hermichen crosses into France at 10,000 feet. His engine is coughing now, misfiring. He aims for the nearest airfield, not his home base, just anywhere he can land before the engine quits completely. The wheels touch down hard. The aircraft bounces, settles. He brakes desperately. The 190 slews sideways, comes to rest at the edge of the runway. Hermichen sits in the cockpit for a long moment, hands still gripping the stick. He's shaking, not from fear, from exhaustion, from the realization of what he's just survived. Ground crew run toward him, shouting, but he can't hear them over the ringing in his ears. He climbs out slowly, painfully. His legs nearly give out. Someone catches him, supports him. He looks back at his aircraft. The tail is a shredded mess. The fuselage is riddled with holes. One wing has a section of skin peeled back like the lid of a tin can. It's a miracle he made it home. "Sir?" someone is saying. "Sir? Are you all right?" Hermichen nods numbly. but he's not all right. None of them are. He's just seen the future, and it's painted in the red light of a dying sky. The Americans have found their weapon. That ridiculous, overweight, ungainly aircraft that everyone mocked has become the terror of the Luftwaffe. Back at Horsham Street, Faith, Moore lands as the last light drains from the sky. His Thunderbolt is shot to pieces again, but it brought him home again. The ground crew doesn't even look surprised anymore. They've seen it before. The P-47 takes damage that would kill any other fighter and keeps flying. Moore climbs out of the cockpit, his flight suit stiff with dried sweat. The debrief will take hours. They'll want to know everything. Enemy numbers, tactics, results. But right now, he doesn't care. Right now, he just wants to stand on solid ground and feel the English evening air on his face. Across the airfield, other Thunderbolts are shutting down, their engines ticking as they cool. Some have emergency vehicles surrounding them, fire crews standing by. But they all made it back. Every single one. The aircraft that the British called flying bathtubs, that the Germans called milkwagons, brought every pilot home alive. In his quarters that night, Moore stares at the ceiling and tries to sleep. But every time he closes his eyes, he sees it again. The red sky, the tracers arcing like falling stars, the German fighters burning as they fell. He saved a bomber today, probably saved 10 men, but he also killed at least one German pilot, maybe 2, young men like himself, fighting for a cause they believed in. War is not simple. War is not clean. It's chaos and terror and moments of violence that scar your soul. But the P-47 gave him a chance to survive it, to fight through it, to live long enough to maybe, someday, go home. That has to be enough. Evening settles over France like a shroud. Hermichen sits in the mess hall at Beauvais, a cup of cold coffee before him. Around him, the few survivors of today's mission speak in hushed voices. The jokes are gone. The swagger has evaporated like morning mist. In its place is something else, something harder to define. Respect, perhaps, or fear, or both. Someone brings news. 8 aircraft lost today, 8 pilots, more than a third of their strength. And for what? The bombers reached their targets. The bombs fell. The industrial heart of Germany burns tonight. The Thunderbolts made sure of it. Hermichen opens his logbook, the leather cover scarred and worn. He flips to a blank page and begins to sketch. His hand moves almost automatically, drawing the unmistakable silhouette. That massive radial engine. Those broad wings. The bubble canopy that would be introduced later, but somehow his pencil draws it anyway, as if his mind has already accepted the evolution to come. The P-47 Thunderbolt. Not a milk-wagon, not a flying bathtub, a weapon, perhaps the most dangerous fighter in the sky, not because it turns better than a 109, it doesn't, not because it climbs faster than a 190, it can't, but because it refuses to die, because it brings its pilot home through circumstances that would destroy any other aircraft, because it can absorb punishment, then strike back with overwhelming firepower. They're going to win, someone says quietly. Hermichen doesn't look up from his sketch. He knows who spoke. Franz, a veteran with 22 kills. If Franz says it, it must be true. Not today, not tomorrow, but eventually. They have too many. Too many pilots, too many planes, too much of everything. And now, they have that. Hermichen looks at his drawing. The Thunderbolt stares back at him from the page, captured in pencil and memory. He draws a circle around it, not like a target, but like a memorial. He adds the date, May 4th, 1943. The day the Luftwaffe's dominance over the skies of Europe began to crack. Across the channel, Moore walks the perimeter of the airfield. It's nearly midnight, but he can't sleep. Above him, stars blaze in the clear sky. The same stars that shine over France, over Germany, over the whole burning world. Somewhere out there, that German pilot he shot down is either dead or a prisoner. Moore doesn't know which, doesn't want to know, but he understands something now that he didn't before his first mission. The P-47 isn't just a machine. It's a statement, a declaration. America has entered this war with all its industrial might, all its resources, all its determination. These massive, powerful aircraft are just the beginning. More are being built every day, thousands of them, tens of thousands, an unstoppable tide of metal and thunder. Moore's crew chief finds him standing by his aircraft. The damage has already been patched with aluminum plates and rivets. By morning, it will be ready to fly again, ready for the next mission, the next combat, the next test of whether he'll survive to see another sunset. "She's a tough old bird, sir," the crew chief says, patting the fuselage affectionately. "Like flying a tank with wings." Moore smiles. "She brought me home. That's all that matters." "She'll do it again tomorrow, sir." And the day after. These jugs don't quit. It's true, the Thunderbolt has earned its nickname, Jug, short for Juggernaut. An unstoppable force, a machine that embodies American philosophy. Build it big, build it strong, build it to last. European fighters are elegant, refined, efficient. The P-47 is none of those things. It's brute force engineering, it's armor and firepower, and an engine that sounds like the end of the world. But it works. God help him, it works. Back in France, Hermichen closes his logbook. Tomorrow there will be another mission. More Americans, more Thunderbolts. The grinding attrition will continue. But something changed today. Something fundamental. The Luftwaffe tasted defeat in a way that statistics and intelligence reports could never convey. They felt it in their bones when their cannon shells bounced off those armored beasts. They saw it in the red sky, burning with tracer fire and dying aircraft. Fear is the first step to respect, and respect is the first sign that you've already lost. Hermichen understands this with a clarity that cuts through him like ice. The war isn't over. It will continue for years, but the outcome is no longer in doubt. You cannot defeat an enemy who will not die. You cannot win against a nation that can replace every loss, rebuild every aircraft, and send fresh pilots to fly them. The Americans have learned to fight. And they brought with them a weapon that embodies everything they are. Powerful, unrelenting, impossible to kill. The P-47 Thunderbolt. In the morning, both sides will take to the skies again. The killing will continue, but tonight, in the quiet hours between battles, both German and American pilots understand that the balance has shifted. The hunters have become the hunted, the confident have become the cautious. The war has changed, and the sky will burn red again. War is not just fought with bullets, it's fought in the mind. The Germans lost more than planes that day. They lost certainty. They lost the psychological edge that had carried them through years of conquest. And the Americans learned that courage is not the absence of fear, but flying through it anyway. The P-47 Thunderbolt would go on to fly more than 500,000 missions in World War II. It would destroy over 7,000 enemy aircraft. It would bring thousands of pilots home through damage that should have killed them. And it would prove that sometimes the machine everyone mocks becomes the weapon everyone fears. The red sky has faded now, the fires are cold, the pilots are dust, but the lesson remains. Victory goes not to the fastest or the most maneuverable, but to those who refuse to quit. To those who build machines that reflect their national character, to those who understand that war is won not in a single battle, but in the stubborn refusal to accept defeat. The Thunderbolt taught both sides that truth, in fire and smoke and the screaming of engines, in the moment when laughter turns to silence and silence becomes respect. The sky remembers.